Hello, this is Ken here. I trust you're all doing well. Um, so today I just want to quickly talk about something I shared not too long ago about the top 10 characteristics of the perfect investment vehicle. And I thought it may make sense for me to just go through that today as part of this call, so you can get a better understanding of what those characteristics are and how you can use them to start planning um, or determining how you invest. So I think that's something that's going to be worth sharing. So let me just share my screen here quickly, and then I can walk you through that information. So hopefully you can see my screen, and what you're looking at here is on the left-hand side, I have the top 10 characteristics, right? So I have tax efficient. So tax efficient is important because taxes, as you all know, is the biggest expense that we face as individuals, right? And that's one of the reasons why we are unable to save. And that's one reason why we are also unable to grow our wealth. And so taxes is a big cost and is a big drag on our expenses. I talk about safety. Safety of capital is really, really, really important because if you lose money, not only are you losing the money, but you're also losing the potential earnings that money can earn you over your lifetime. So if you lose $1 today, you're not just losing $1, but you're losing all the future income that $1 can potentially earn uh, down the road, right? So that's why safety is so critical. We'll talk about growth. With inflation, it's so important to have your money growing at a decent rate. And so it's important to be checking your investments to ensure that those investments are outpacing inflation when it comes to growth and making sure that you're earning a decent return on your capital. Leverage is key. As you all know, without leverage, you're taking the slow path to wealth. And so your ability to leverage to have your money um, working for you maybe multiple times in multiple places is really really important, right? And so leverage is key, using other people's money, other people's resources. Cash flow is a good one because cash flow solves a lot of problems. If you have cash flow, you can pay off debt. If you have cash flow, you can go on vacation. If you have cash, you can do so many things. You can capitalize the money and earn better returns. So cash flow becomes very, very important in investment decision. I talk about control because controlling your capital, controlling your investments is key. We want to have investments that we can control because if you can control an investment, you can potentially have increase the value of that investment. You can increase the cash flow. You can increase your income. There are so many things you can do when you have control. Your ability to manage, your ability to sell when you need to sell, to hold for a long time if you have to. And so control becomes very, very important. I will talk about free of regulation. You don't want government regulation that will impede or restrict how you use your assets or your funds. And so you want to be able to invest without unnecessary regulations. Um, I also talked about free of fees. You don't want unnecessary fees on your investments. And so you want to be careful when you're investing to make sure that you're not paying unnecessary fees. Guarantees. Guarantees is somehow related to safety. You want investments that will guarantee your capital. It's hard to find, but there are investments that can guarantee your capital. You also need protection. When I talk about protection here, I need protection from creditors, protection from inflation, I mean, all sorts of protection against anything that can devalue your investments or your capital. So those are my top 10. I mean, there are potentially other criteria that would be ideal for investments, but as far as I'm concerned, these are my own top 10. I mean, if you have others, please share. Um, and then we can always evaluate them. All right, and so what I wanted to do today was to look at different vehicles and then quickly just check and see which of these vehicles meets these all these characteristics. So as some of you know real estate is one of my top vehicles. I love it. I use it all the time, and so it's always gonna be on my list. Okay. Um, I hope this has been helpful. I mean, you can add any investment you think about and then walk through the same criteria in assessing it. So now, how do you use this? Right. So that's the important thing. How do you use this in making decisions? Right. And so what I would suggest is think of ways, depending on where you are in life, think of how you can rank all these different characteristics, right? That's what I'll do. I will rank all of these characteristics. So let's say, for example, I'm in retirement or I'm closer to retirement. So for me, when I'm close to retirement, my number one criteria is safety, right? Because I don't want to lose capital. So if safety is the number one criteria, then safety becomes my number one criteria. So in other words, if I'm looking at investment, at a minimum, safety must be yes, right? And then if I'm retirement, I'll look again, what else is important to me? Cash flow is important to me, right? So maybe safety is number one for me. Cash flow is number two for me. Maybe guarantees is important, maybe protection is important, right? So I take all those things that are important to me and I rank them, and I make sure that my top two or top three or top four is present in every vehicle that I use for my investments, right? And so this is going to be different for everyone, right? So depending on what you want to do, depending on where you are in life, depending on your goals, how much time you have. If I'm 20, for example, in my 20s, I know I have time, right? And I want to take more risk. In that case, leverage may be number one for me, right? And so I put leverage. Growth may be number one for me or number two. And so this is what you do. Then you rank all of those things and then you decide and say, okay, for my top one or top two or top four, I must have them present in every investment that I make. And then you consider the mix of all the other criteria that you want present. I mean, one that I can add here would be Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is a good one, or either Bitcoin or just crypto in general, right? So this is a good one to add. And now if we want to quickly run through that, is it tax efficient? So right now that will be a no. Oh, sorry, I don't want to do that. So is it tax efficient? So right now that would be I would say no. And the reason why I'm saying no, because I can't hold it in any tax efficient vehicle. It may be yes or no because there is a possibility of just paying capital gains. Is it safe? I mean, if you look at, depending on how you hold your Bitcoin, I would say yes or no for this. Because if you understand the characteristics of Bitcoin, you know that this is an asset that is not going to go anywhere, right? Depending on some of the things I've been reading, my research, and so there is Bitcoin will be safe in many ways. Is there growth? Well, based on what we've seen so far, this is going to be a yes, just based on the growth that we've seen over the last 10 years. Over the last 10 years, no asset has matched Bitcoin in terms of growth. Can you leverage it? Yes, if you understand how to use it. So there are so many exchanges that will allow you to leave your capital invested in Bitcoin, and then you can take a loan against it and invest in other vehicles. So you can certainly leverage your Bitcoin. Will it provide cash flow? I would say for this one, I would say yes or no, right? Because if you're thinking of, I mean, let's say no for this, because there's really no way to get a consistent cash flow, depending on what Bitcoin does. So that I would say no for now. Do you have control? This again, we can say no, because you don't have control in terms of the movement of Bitcoin. Um, in some ways, you can say that may be a yes, but for now, I will say no. Is it free of regulations? Yes. Free of fees? Yes, because you can manage it yourself. Are there guarantees? I would say no. There's really no guarantee with Bitcoin. Is there protection? So in this one, I would say yes and no. And the reason why I'm saying yes and no is because protection against inflation for sure. Protection against creditor protection maybe no, because of the way you hold these assets, right? But Bitcoin is one that will evolve over time, right? And so you can look for any investment vehicle and just put it here and do this analysis yourself in terms of deciding how you want to use this tool. I hope this is helpful. If you have any comments, please share, and we can take it up in the comments and discuss this later.